Hey there, Retrotopians, and welcome to episode 85, Fire Emblem, the Blazing Blade. Blazing Blade? Burning Blade? It's Blazing Blade. For the Game Boy Advance. We got a lot to talk about here. But first, let's get some plugs out. Linktree, linktr.ee/Retrotopia, where you can find our social medias, links to our Discord, our Patreon, which are all free, by the way, and our TeePublic merch store, which Brian's got some new designs up there. So yeah, every now and then Brian will just surprise us with a new design, and all that stuff is available right through TeePublic. So it's easy to pick your color, pick your design, and get it shipped, and you can show everyone that you listen to the best podcast in the world. If you're new, welcome to the show. If you're just here for Fire Emblem, we do a bit of an intro, so I'd say, I don't know, give me 15 or 20 minutes to ramble about some stuff. We got a lot of comments and questions from the community, so this will be a fun one. Stick around. But otherwise, skip ahead and we'll get right into Fire Emblem talk. First, though, we will start with our culturally elegant 9-bit banter box, and that's where you can write into the show if you are a member over on Patreon. All right, our first question comes from Dylan, who says, any indie games you've got your eye on? Yes, I love indie games. I haven't been able to play enough of them lately because we've been so focused on games for the show, but I would say I have not gotten around to Balatro yet, and I'd really like to. It's got my interest. I'm not a big poker player, but I do like card games and roguelikes. Those are kind of fun, so that's on PS Plus right now. I might grab that. Wargroove 2, I think I have that on Steam. I'd like to get into that because I think they took the Wargroove formula and they added some things. So that looks really good. There's a game that I picked up on Switch a while back called Hunt Down. That sounds like fun. It looks a lot like a Contra-like game, so run and gun. And I do enjoy kind of shutting my brain off and playing games like that. Every now and then. I enjoy Contra. And then I'll shout this one out. This is an upcoming game that was teased from the Legend of Santa creator over on Instagram. I saw some artwork or some screenshots of some sprite work for an upcoming RPG that they're doing. So I don't have any sort of details on what it is or when it might be coming out, but it looked cool, and I'm psyched. So I really hope that comes to fruition, something I might back if it comes to a Kickstarter. But yeah, that would be the 4, I would say. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. And if anyone listening has any suggestions, I love indies. We are very indie friendly podcast, so put those in the Discord if you got them. Next question. This one's a doozy. This comes from Blobbert Rogers, who says, Sam, y'all got plunked down in the middle of a Final Fantasy-esque RPG. What weapons and limit breaks do the Retrotopia crew use? Come on, Sam, show us your RPG-ness. Yes, I will indeed whip out my RPG-ness, and I had to prepare this question because my attempts at recording it without preparing were dog shit. So, Alan has a rapier wit. He would be a swordsman for sure. All kinds of various swords. He could wield them all. Limit break. Alan is a big fan of vampires and vampire media, from What We Do in the Shadows and Dracula to Castlevania, obviously. So Alan is going to be able to turn into a bat for sure. His podcast skill, if I can add another limit break for Alan, or do a real world kind of funny one, is that he can finish games faster than any of us. So that's your real skill, Alan, is just I'm done. It's I haven't even started. Nope, I'm done. Yeah, Alan finishes games faster than any of us. Brian is definitely a paladin type, or a paladin class. He's the anchor of our team. He wields heavy weapons like axes and hammers. I mean, kick-ass hammer. That sounds cool. But he can also heal us. So Brian does what needs to be done for the podcast, and that's going to transfer over to his limit break, which would be either healing the party or dealing massive damage to the enemy. I think it's like it would be a limit break where you could choose either, like you could either choose to do damage or you could choose to heal. That would be kind of cool. So yeah, Brian does what needs to be done. He gets it done. He's the paladin. And me, I'm the thief. Get some major imposter syndrome. We're like episode 85 and approaching 2 years of doing this show, and I'm just like, is this real? Do I really do this? Apparently. Yeah, so I can be a quick thinker. I got some tricks up my sleeve sometimes, but I think that I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. I think my limit would be a slot or dice type ability. Kind of think of like Tifa's slot machine, or like is it Kino or Quinoa or whatever from Final Fantasy IX that has that like weird dice, and just, or is it Kate Sith, I think, has like a random ability. It would just be some sort of dice roll or roulette wheel, and it would just generate something randomly that may either help or hurt the party, which I think is kind of the energy I bring to the table sometimes. And then what would my weapon be? I don't know. I guess like maybe knives. That's like a thief. Like usually thieves are equipping like knives or maybe a sword if they're lucky. I don't know. But yeah, that's my answer for that. God, that was a tough one. Next is the big deal. When you guys finally get around to covering a wrestling game, who's going to push for it and what will it ultimately be? Well, I think in the game chat, or maybe it was the After Dark, we briefly talked about wrestling, about how like my version of wrestling is like kaiju movies like Godzilla and stuff. And I know it's fake and whatever, but I still love it. Like that's kind of a pro wrestling type, you're there for the storyline and the athleticism of the feats, but it's not, it's scripted or, whatever. I'm not that big into wrestling, but I did play a lot of WCW versus NWO on the 64 and WCW NWO Revenge. I could see covering those. Those are like kind of the, from what I understand, and it's interesting that those happen to be the games that I played, but like the peak of like wrestling games for a long time at least. Yeah, those would probably be it. I'd be looking to pick those up on the 64 because I never had them, but I rented them quite a bit, and I did enjoy them. And there was a brief time I kind of got into wrestling, but it didn't stick with me. But thanks Big Deal, for the question, and definitely we will cover a wrestling game at some point. Oh God, here's a question. Mr. Hooley says, okay, fuck, marry, kill. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that game, but it kind of explains itself. So Hooley goes on to say the theme is random people from shows I've recently watched. So fuck, marry, kill: Francine Smith from American Dad, Lana from Archer, and Gadget Girl from The Awesomes. First of all, quote unquote people from shows I've recently watched, and then you proceed to list different cartoon ladies. You are my kind of people, Hooley. I just, of course it's cartoons. Let's see. Well, I would say, you listed it as marry, fuck, kill. Fuck, marry, kill, marry, fuck, kill, whatever. I would marry Francine, because Francine is just a lovely lady, and she is so dependable, and is always there for Stan, even though he's a bumbling idiot sometimes. She's a loyal wife. She's a knockout. Francine. Fuck, I would say, I guess, Lana from Archer. This feels so freaking weird to answer this question, but yes, Lana from Archer. That's all. I'm not going to go into that one. And then Gadget Girl from The Awesomes is kill, I guess, because I just unfortunately have never seen The Awesomes. So Gadget Girl, you're just a victim of the fact that I've never seen The Awesomes. But anyways, thank you for that question, and now I'm uncomfortable. Okay, all right. Next comes from Game Genius. All right. a question for you. You are stuck with only one system to play for eternity between PS1, N64, or the Sega Saturn. You can only pick 3 games to play. What system and games are you playing and why? And you said you are choosing the PS1 with Legacy of Kain Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, and The Legend of Dragoon. And Legacy of Kain is your favorite series, and then Legend of Dragoon is your favorite RPG. But you've yet to finish it because you made it to the final boss and your save file corrupted. Good God. Man, I'm sorry for that, because that is a harrowing experience. But anyways, my answer, the spicy answer would have been the Saturn, because I never had much experience with the Saturn. But I would hate to like pick a Saturn in 3 games in this hypothetical scenario and then just be like, oh, I actually don't like this. Which, I mean, it would be tough to find, a game system that I truly didn't like. But the PlayStation 1 is what I'm going to pick. And I'll tell you why. I think the games hold up the most between the PS1 and the 64, if I'm down to those 2 choices. And then there's games that I think just have the most replayability, and I'm going to pick 3 here. And hopefully they're not like, they're not real like deep cuts or anything, but I'm picking Final Fantasy Tactics because A, it's a Final Fantasy game, it's an RPG, but it's also got the tactical element that I enjoy. So we are picking that, and there's a lot of different ways to play it with the party system and all that. So definitely Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm going to take Symphony of the Night. A little bit of recency bias, but I think there's just a lot of fun replayability and just jumping back into something that's familiar and exploring and finding new secrets and stuff every time you play. So Symphony of the Night. And there's if you go back and listen to that episode a couple episodes back, there's a lot of replayability there if you play it right. So I would go with that. And then lastly would be oh shit, man, I didn't put Tony. You know what, I'm gonna change my answer. I originally said Gran Turismo, Gran Turismo 2 probably, just because the same thing. There's just a lot of replayability. There's a lot of tracks. There's a lot of different cars, and realistic customization options and everything. That is really a great game. But I'm gonna change it to Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 because I love Tony Hawk and I would play that game to death. So. Yeah, those are my answers. So Final Fantasy Tactics, Symphony of the Night, I'm reading off my page. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. But my real answer, if I had any console to pick, I'd pick the GBA. And I would probably pick, I might pick a Fire Emblem game, as frustrating as you'll find that we found this game. Just again because of the replayability and being able to improve and find new things each playthrough. Like Pokemon Green I would pick, and gosh, I don't know, maybe like the Super Mario World, one of the Super Marios, like the Super Mario 3 kind of like remake that they did for GBA. So that's my real answer, is the GBA, because I love the GBA. All right. This is a question that I have been preparing for almost as hard as playing Fire Emblem for the episode. Blaine the Hoagie Man says, I can't remember if I had any of you guys do this before, but I need you to list your top 5 Opeth albums. And Jesus Christ, if you aren't familiar with Opeth, they are I guess you'd call them a prog metal band, progressive metal or progressive rock, I guess. But I mean, an album of like 6 to 8 songs, but like each song is like 10 minutes long. So I've listened to a fair amount of Opeth, but and I really like what I like, but it's one of those things where like it's so good that I get really fixated on like certain albums that I like the most, and I'll listen to those over and over again. So I actually had to go through and listen to some that I hadn't listened to before to make a top 5. So I think I probably listened to, since I saw this question, maybe 7 or 8 of them. It's like, put everything on pause. I'm listening to Opeth. So here's my top 5. I've got one honorable mention. I listened to Sorceress, and I thought it was pretty darn good. There are no death metal vocals, so if you're not, if you like prog rock but you're not like a death metal fan, or you don't like those type of vocals, there's some albums in the Opeth catalog that I think you'd really enjoy. So Sorceress is a really good one. But my top 5, number 5, I have Orchid, which is their debut. Really good one. It's got a lot. You can hear a lot of their influences and what they would become later. Just a really, really cool place to start if you like metal and melodic death metal and just all the different influences that went into what makes Opeth. Number 4, Damnation. That was another one that I was surprised. I like really, really dug it, but was surprised that there were either none or next to no death metal vocals. Number 3, Deliverance. That was one of the ones that I hadn't listened to before, and I was like, oh my god, where has this been? Just so good. Number 2, Ghost Reveries. Same thing, and this is like a 1A, 1B, because my number 1 is Blackwater Park, and I don't care if that makes me just a surface level Opeth fan, but I think it's one of their most highly touted works for a reason. It's so good. I mean, it's the perfect blend of the death metal and the prog rock elements, the clean singing. Just there's so much there. It's a little bit of everything. So I really do love Blackwater Park, and that's my favorite. But I could see Ghost Reveries or Deliverance taking the one spot the more I listen to them. So we'll see. But man, what a good question. Like, next time pick a band that has shorter songs, for fuck's sake. Thanks, Hoagie, man. That was a good question. Yeah, that's all the general questions. Sorry, this went a little long, but there were some good ones, so I wanted to make sure to take some time and answer those. So sorry, this is going to be a long episode because we talk at length on Fire Emblem. What have I been playing? We'll just go through this real quick, just in case you're interested. The last 2 weeks, pretty much just fucking Fire Emblem, man. Like, this game, oh man, I don't know if it was meant to be shotgunned the way I did. It was like eating a giant hamburger and feeling really, really full, and also oddly stressed out that I wouldn't finish the hamburger in time. I finished it last night, by the way. Also, I've been itching for more of Metroidvania, so I picked out my Castlevania Advance Collection and started Circle of the Moon. Been enjoying it. It's kind of a slog. Like, man, well, maybe this will have an episode down the line, so I'll hold my thoughts. But it's a tough game, but I'm enjoying it. It's definitely got like a GBA feel to it, but I don't know. I love the GBA. It's a really good system, and really even better once you blow it up and put it on a HD display and everything. And everything looks really good. And then I've also picked up on PS Plus. Hopefully I can go back to it this weekend a bit. I've been playing Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, which just recently dropped on PS Plus. Just on a whim, decided like, you know what, I want to play a shooter. And this is just like, it's just boomer shooter excellence. It's got like, it feels like Quake 2 or like Doom 2016 remake, but it's got that like kind of pixelated PC look, like old PC game look, and it's just like I don't know, I love it. It does the thing that Doom 2016 does, where you get into an arena and it kind of like locks you in and you have to kill everything before you can move on. Just a good, I mean, it's a pretty much a clone, but it is fun if you like that type of game. And then Split Fiction, the Lady Beagle and I have been chipping away on Split Fiction. Man, it's great. Like, the story's great. The environments are great. Gameplay is clever, obviously, but I find it, we both find it to be so much tougher than It Takes Two, and maybe not in a good way. So, my jury's out on that one. So far it's good, but it's even more difficult to coordinate the co-op elements than its predecessors, but so far so good. We'll see. Hopefully we can finish that one. But right now, you're probably wondering about the game we're talking about this week. So we're going to turn it over to Alan for the gentleman's intro.
Attention! Officer on deck. Yes, all right, Sergeant Benton. At ease, gentlemen. Gather round, for I'm about to brief you on a campaign of high import, drawn not from our own hallowed fields, but from a most esteemed foreign theatre. The Fire Emblem, the Blazing Blade, a fine piece of strategic craftsmanship, forged by the noble artisans at Intelligent Systems and distributed to the masses by Nintendo. Released to our American allies on the 3rd of November 2003, and later to our own shores in Europe on the 16th of July 2004, this title marks the very first time the venerable Fire Emblem series graced Western soil. Now then, to the matter at hand. You will assume command over a band of fledgling warriors in the land of Elib, a continent teetering on the brink of chaos. You begin humbly, serving as tactician to a young Lycian noblewoman named Lyn, daughter of the Sacaean Plains. A spirited lass, she leads the initial charge, and it is your duty to guide her blade through hostile territory, sharpening her metal with each encounter. Your campaign then transitions to the tale of Eli Wood of Faray, or Farai, never could pronounce the blasted place, and his close companion Hector of Ostia, two noble heirs seeking answers to the dark conspiracies that loom behind their father's disappearances and the threat of a malevolent cult seeking to revive a long-banished dragon. Their journey weaves through treacherous terrain, skirmishes with brigands, traitors, and monsters alike. Each decision you make bears weight, as fallen comrades do not rise again. This, lads, is permadeath, a feature not to be trifled with. Plan your movements as though every soldier's life depends upon it, for it does. The battlefield is gridded, your units are varied. Swordsmen, mages, mounted knights, and archers, each with their strengths, weaknesses, and sacred honor to uphold. The weapon triangle is your bread and butter. Swords beat axes, axes beat lances, and lances in turn cleave through swords. Understand this, and you shall triumph. Neglect it, and the enemy shall encircle you like wolves to lamb. Remember, this is not a game. It is a trial of strategy, foresight, and sacrifice. The Blazing Blade is the 7th in the Fire Emblem saga in its homeland of Japan, but to us it is our first true test, a proving ground for all who dare call themselves tacticians. Stand tall, remember your formations, and lead your troops with honor. Dismissed.
All right, Alan. Thanks for that beautiful intro to Fire Emblem. And we have a couple of comments from the community for those of you who either have played this game or have some experience with Fire Emblem. And first comes from Blobbert Rogers, who says, I own many Fire Emblem games, but have not played a single one. Is this a good place to start, or do you have a better recommendation? First of all, yes. I also have a lot of games in my collection that I haven't played a single one of. So I understand this thought, this sentiment. Is this a good place to start? I'd say yes, maybe no. We do address that in the episode. I'd waffle back and forth. It's not an easy game, and it doesn't hold your hand really. Like these games, I think I will mention this ahead of time, but I found on a Wikipedia page that there was I don't know what the source is, but there was a concerted effort after around like 2010 to start making these Fire Emblem games a little bit more I guess player friendly, as far as, you know, you can adjust the difficulty a little bit more. You can turn off the permadeath. So I might, if you have a DS and you have Fire Emblem Awakening, maybe start there. I haven't played that one yet, but I've heard very good things about it. I've played Three Houses on the Switch, and that was another one where it's got the involved story. It's got all the elements of Fire Emblem that, you know, you come to love. But you are able to turn off the permadeath. There's variable difficulties and stuff. This game, Fire Emblem on the GBA, does none of that. It's very much there's very little margin for error in this game. So maybe not a great place to start, but if you do want that full like unfiltered experience, this is a good game to get into. Hooli says, pretty much a perfect game. You sadist. Yes, it is a really well crafted game. I will say that. From the graphics to the gameplay, everything is very well crafted, but like I said, very unforgiving and a very precise. You need a precise touch for it. And then the big deal says, I started playing this for the first time in the Switch GBA. I got to tell you, I don't like it at all. At first it was different. It was easy. So I was like, I got this. Then it got harder and I realized I suck at chess. The story's total garbage, boring and plain. Absolutely nothing to get me hooked enough to think that I'll try it again or try to get better at chess. And permadeath is crap mechanic, especially when the characters are still traveling with you. So dead but not. I'll stick with my real RPGs. At least with those, I can grind to increase my characters, unlike this. Yes. I would agree with a lot of what you said. That's what the big deal said is exactly why I err on the side that this is not a good place to start, or maybe not the most accessible. It's definitely not easy. Permadeath does suck. It does get very chess-like, and you have to strategize like a variety of different, it's resource management, it's movement, everything. So obviously we get into that, and I've been going on long enough. This is a very long intro. We did have a lot of write-ins, so I thank you all. Let's get into Fire Emblem, which was released in 2003, developed by Intelligent Systems, published by Nintendo for the GBA. So Alan and I are going to get into it. Alright, everybody, here we are to talk about Fire Emblem, and I think it's the Blazing Blade, correct? This is the Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem. Man, well, I just finished it I slipped right under the radar, and I finished it last night. What a game. And here to talk with me about Fire Emblem is Alan. How you doing, Alan?
I sound like I'm doing a lot better than you are playing this fucking game. I'm good. Hot, muggy, little bit irritable, and ready to talk about a game series that I have absolutely no knowledge about prior to this game. So it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And for the record, when did I complete this? It must have been like a month or two ago.
Yeah, you just blazed through this. No pun intended, Blazing Blade. You played this quick, and I was just like, man, this is the I do have a little bit of so sorry if you can hear like click clacking on I got a beagle pal that's just like kind of pacing around in here. But yeah, I've played Three Houses. Yeah, that's the one that's on the Switch. Liked that game. There's some, these games really do like to punish you if you're not doing everything perfectly from the start.
Oh boy.
And there is really no opportunity to go back. So I think even with Three Houses, which I think was a little bit more forgiving, I still was like, oh my God, this game is a meaty game. This is like I was thinking about it earlier today. It's like the video game equivalent, and even RPGs are like this, but even more so this, because this is like the video game equivalent of playing like one of those like a Dragonlance book or something, like some really fucking thick fantasy novel.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Or those old fighting fantasy books. Did you ever read those where you get to like I turn to page 70 to do this,
Oh,
turn to
like a
page
choose your own
96.
adventure.
Yeah, exactly. I used to
Yeah, it
have
kind of
loads
is.
of those indoors. And, you know, just like playing the Blazing Blade, I'd always keep my finger on that page I used to be on, just in case I fucked up this decision. And
Oh
I
yes,
I am not ashamed to say that playing this on Nintendo Switch Online was definitely the way to go.
it really is.
This was a game that is on my something like 300 or 400 strong gaming wish list, and
Mm-hmm.
is it going to stay on there? Oh, I'm going to see how I feel by the end of this episode. But
Uh,
yeah, for those who don't know, and you probably know better than I do, but Fire Emblem, a Blazing Blade, as it was known in Japan, I think, or was it that? Because I know it over here just as Fire Emblem. I think it was the first time that we
yeah,
got one of these games over here. So it's a
same
tact.
same here. I think Blazing Blade is like the Japanese title because this is not the first Fire Emblem game that came
Oh
out in
no,
Japan, and it is one of the first that came out here. I would say, if not the first.
sure, it's something like the seventh over in Japan. So this was a
Yeah.
well-established series already. But it's a tactical RPG, which I have limited experience with as far as like my gaming history goes. I've played, I guess, the Final Fantasy Tactics games, and that's about it as far as this genre goes. So I am entirely, well, almost entirely green where it comes to like comparing this with other games. Um, what about you? You're a big tactical guy, right?
I really do like. I started out, when I was a kid playing real time strategy games, so I didn't have as much um, experience with this type of game. And the first one I played was, I grabbed Fire Emblem Three Houses and played that, and I was like, man, this is phenomenal. Um, I really enjoy the gameplay, the style of the gameplay. Um, and oh, actually, even before that, even before Three Houses, I think um, back in like I would say like 2019 or very early 2020, there was a there was an anniversary for Fire Emblem, and they came out with. Unfortunately, it wasn't a physical copy, which sucks, but it was a digital code and like a collector's package. And then for a brief time on the Nintendo eShop, they had um, the Famicom, like an English translation of the Famicom Fire Emblem game, the original.
Oh
So
wow.
that's Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, I believe it's called. I picked that up, and that actually is on my Switch. But I mean, if you think this game is hard, like that one's even harder and more cryptic than this one. It's like Jesus.
I can
I
only
think this, yeah,
I can only imagine because I mean, what was it? Three Houses was the other one you said you played, and
Three Houses, yeah,
if you say that that is more accessible than this, like I can believe it because this I think this game does a reasonably good job of explaining very early on what it expects you to do and how to play the game, but
yeah.
I would say it's still very, very cryptic and
Mm-hmm.
extremely unforgiving. Like, I can't even imagine playing an even more basic, like, NES hard version of this game. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I was looking at play it with a guide first of all. If you think you want to give this game a shot, which I would suggest, because if you do like strategy games, this is a great game. Let's not beat around the bush at all. It is difficult, but it's really great. Um, I'm looking at a guide, and going into the final set of battles, it was saying, like, take this guy and this guy and this guy. I was like, where the fuck were they? Like, there are maps or battles in this game where like a character will just kind of like appear for a little bit, and you have to have a very specific character in a very specific spot to go and talk to them on the battlefield in order to recruit them
Oh, God,
into
yeah.
your party. And so if you miss it, that's your shot, and you're done. There is a lot of that in this game. There are places like, you know, I guess you could say technically there's not really ways to quote unquote grind in this game like in a traditional JRPG where you can go to the cave and fight bats for hours on end until you level up.
Yeah.
This is not like that. You have to select your party for each battle, in accordance with the type of terrain, the type of units, that sort of thing, and then I was always trying my best to rotate and I mean, even so, I didn't do good enough. Rotate your fighters around so that they can gather experience points. And the shitty part is there's 3 hero characters or main characters in the game, and if you lose any one of them at any point, that's your game over. And if you lose any other character that you've either recruited or is part of your party to start with, that's not a main character, they are permanently dead.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Let's start with that because
Yes.
I went into this game blind, and as I said, I've played tactical RPGs. I've played the Final Fantasy Tactics, and generally speaking, your character goes down. You've got a few turns to sort of dust them off again and get them back in the fight, and you just carry
Right.
on. And I remember, I think I messaged you while I was playing this game early on. I was just like, "The fuck you mean permadeath?" It's like the first
Yeah.
time one of my characters just disappeared. I was just like, "Well, where have they gone?" It's just like, "You've got to be kidding me." So,
Well, especially if you've been pouring a lot of effort into, building them
oh,
up, or they're holding an item that you need or something. It's like,
oh.
oh my God.
And it's just, yeah, I mean, okay, this game does have an incredibly rich roster of characters, and there are, I don't know what, 30 or 40, fuck, I don't know, I haven't counted characters, maybe even more. I'm looking at the screen now, and there's fucking loads of these bastards, and
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, well, I get that you can sort of swap them in, swap them out, and what have you, but it's just like you don't. It's like with any RPG that does not level up side characters with you. It's like I'm not gonna dip into I don't know, a level 3 archer when the rest of my team are like in their level 20s. I mean, what the fuck is the point of that? And it's just
Right.
like when you lose someone that you've invested that much time and effort into, it's just like that is snap the console in half, rage inducing. And
Yeah, I was telling you, I was like, I'm gonna throw my Switch across the room.
for
Like,
sure,
I'm not even kidding.
for
Just like,
sure.
especially here's the other thing, especially when you plan out your move exactly to make sure that not only can you do the most damage or make the most progress on your turn, but that everyone is safe, right?
Oh,
Everyone should be safe.
and
And then the very
there's
next turn, like, reinforcements appear and move in and like kill someone from behind. It's like, what the fuck?
there is so much you cannot plan for in this game. It
Right.
is absolutely ridiculous. Just like, it could be like, I don't know, say you're working through 7 or 8 different character turns on your team. And, you move the
Mm-hmm.
first one, you do an attack, you kill the enemy, and you think, okay, well, that character, they're safe over there, let's move on. And by the time you've gone through all these other characters and get back to the enemy's turn, like something happens and there's literally nothing you can do about it. Like something you just could not, like a fucking dragon rider or something like that, just comes across half the
Oh God.
screen and just
Yep.
absolutely spanks your fucking. Oh, what was the worst one for it? I fucking hated the Pegasus Riders. Was it Pegasus Riders?
The little dragon, like, wyvern or wavern, or I'm not sure how you
Oh no,
pronounce
they.
that,
I
but
mean,
like those
they
dragon riders suck too.
they were literally on fucking flying horses, and they
Mm-hmm.
could go literally anywhere, but they were made out of fucking glass. And I know
Yes.
somebody's probably going to come at me and just be like, "Oh well, if you like level them up like this and give them this equipment and
No,
what have
I'm
you,"
sure
it's
there
like,
is, because the guide that I was looking at said to bring. God, what was the character's name? But like there were a couple of Pegasus riders that I got, and I'm like, these fucking suck. And like
ugh,
they do in the Switch game too. Like they're very strong for certain for certain types of fighting, but they're very, very, very weak when it comes to like getting hit with an arrow. Like you're done. And there's your archers can ride ballistas, which are like just kind of spattered throughout some of the open like maps that are like out, basically like the outdoor ones. They might be in some of the castles too, but like basically you can get your archer on this ballista and like the range is like half the map. So if there's a flyer that's like anywhere close to one of these things, like there's a pretty good chance that it's going down.
Yeah. Florina. I think that was her name.
Yeah, Florina. Yeah, I was like, bring Florina. I was like, why the fuck would I bring Florina? She sucks.
it just got to, and listen, full disclosure. I played this on the Switch on NSO. I ended up using the rewind function.
Oh God, yes.
I mean, because what was I going to do otherwise except quit out and start the entire battle all over again? It's just.
And I did some of that too. Let's be clear.
Yeah,
I did some of that too.
Well, I started off doing that because sometimes it just gets to the point where the rewind will only go back so far, and it's just a cascade of fuckery that's just left you with absolutely no options whatsoever. And it got to the point by the end of the game I was just like, you know what, fuck you. Yeah, I don't need you anyway. Fucking Lowen, you bastard.
Oh, Lowen sucks. That was another one where it was just like, I think I decided a little bit too late to like try to salvage Lowen and make him a little bit better, but it's like, oh no, this guy just is absolute dog shit. And I don't know if, I think the Pegasus Flyers or like the Pegasus Knights suffer from that like Magikarp syndrome where it's just like you have to waste a ton of time and take a ton of additional risk on to get them up to level 10 and use the item on them to upgrade them. Because once they reach level 10, you can give them some sort of an item. It's usually some sort of a seal or a crest. And it will change their class into like the more advanced version of their class.
Absolutely. Assuming you fucking found it.
Right. Assuming you found it in the right spot. So it's probably locked in a chest somewhere, or some character had it and you had to steal it from them with a thief or some sort of fucking bullshit. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like it is extremely difficult to level these characters up. But if you manage to do it and you have the item to upgrade them, they become very, very powerful. And
I guess
I call that the Magikarp syndrome.
I'm sure you could turn like Florina into a glass cannon, but she's still made of glass.
Right.
And that's, I mean, this probably speaks more to my play style than anything else, because the thing is with these games is if you do well, you kind of feel like this master tactician, but if you play like I do, these games they do make you feel kind of dumb. And
yeah, I did because I realized only too late, and I should have known because I've played them before, not a ton of them, but it's like I think they give you these ways that you can beat the game without without putting a lot of effort into a lot of characters. Like they hand you Marcus on a silver platter. Like Marcus is a tank. They give you Oswin. Oswin is the same way. I can't remember where Oswin comes from, but like he shows up at some point and like he is a tank. Gosh, there was the sword master. I can't remember what his name was, but like he showed up at some point and I grabbed him and I was like, oh, he's got this crazy sword and does like critical hits every single turn. Like, okay, I'm going to lean on him a little bit. And then I start to sit back and rely on these characters, and I'm protecting my main characters because they are pretty weak. It is another like Magikarp scenario where like your main characters are Lynn, Eliwood, and Hector is like the axe kind of guy. Yeah. He's kind of a burly guy. Hector, of the three of them, Hector ended up being the best for me.
Okay, that's interesting.
Eliwood. Yeah.
I
Oh,
would
you like Lynn though, right?
Lindis I found her to be a fucking beast. I mean, because she almost every single time would like attack twice with, if you got, was it the Manicati sword or whatever it was that you
Oh
get
yeah, a
early on in the game?
manicotti.
Manicati, Babadaboopy. She like she will attack twice. She will counter almost everything. It's just like I could just
Hmm.
kind of leave her to it and just get on with it. Hector, again, with the axes and what have you, is just generally, like you say, a bit of a tank. And Eli Wood, or Ellie Wood, or whatever he is, he's just a bitch.
He sucks, and they even acknowledge that like he's kind of a wimp because on towards the end of the game you get these what are they called, earth seals, or you get these seals that you can upgrade. You end up upgrading Lynn, and she's like a sword lord lady, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then Hector turns into like an axe lord or something like that. Like they just have like an elevated class, and Elliewood is the last, and I don't think you get his until the very very end,
Yeah.
where it's finally like this gray bearded wizard dude is like, he even mentions in the dialogue, like, I haven't been able to use any of these seals. And I'm just like, yeah, I fucking know, dude. You suck.
Yeah, you are not fucking worthy, mate.
No,
Just
he's,
why can't I
oh,
just
God.
leave you behind? Um,
Yeah.
but I do appreciate that you can get characters up to this level and then you can sort of change basically their entire, I guess, like job class or role or what have you, and they'll
Yeah.
keep the abilities that they had before, but you'll get like you can use extra weapons with them this time because
Hmm.
every character can only use a certain amount of specific items. So you're not going to get necessarily an archer throwing axes or stuff like that, or a knight throwing magic. And it is nice that when you actually, again, assuming you found these items and you can level these characters up,
Right.
it is nice that they get these extra abilities that you can play around with. I just kind of hate how almost hidden to an extent some of these fucking things are.
Yeah. I think a couple things I thought of after I finished it last night. I was frustrated with the final battle. And I think it's a little bit my own fault, but it's a little bit the game too. But I think this game is meant to be something that you obviously, you know, we played it in a relatively short time span. Like I would not have been able to finish it if it weren't for save states. And you can suspend it on the original Game Boy cartridge, but I think you only get to reload a suspend once. So they kind of build it in so that like you can't suspend your mission and then just continue to come back to it time and again and try different things. Like
Mm,
you get like one shot to suspend it. And I don't know if
yeah,
they kept that in the Game Boy game, but anyways, like this is meant to test your skill. You're meant to, you know, explore different maps and stuff like that. Try to, move characters next to other characters and see if they can, the ability to talk. For the most part, where you're finding additional characters to recruit, it can be pretty not obvious, but I would say like a trick to figuring out whether or not a character is recruitable. Usually they're like your guys are blue and the enemies are always red. So there's that, and then there's sometimes there's like a third, computer party or whatever that's green. So like they're neutral or they're kind of like also fighting on your side, but you don't control them. And
mm,
some of those characters sometimes are fodder for recruiting. Um, I mean, there's one map where you get like two. You get the little you get a swordsman and you get the monk that uses light magic. So that's pretty cool. And that was one where, it was pretty telegraphed that you had to go talk to these dudes. But also it can be difficult to get to the right spot by the right turn to even be in range to talk to these guys, because they're moving around too. There were a few where it's like you have to go talk to this knight or whatever. He's on a fucking horse, and I have to go catch him with Elliewood and put Elliewood in danger for this to happen. Like it's tough.
Yeah.
But I guess the point of that was, I think you're meant to use trial and error, get as far as you can. Like say you get through like Lindis's kind of practice campaign, and then you get through like the first few maps of Elliewood, and then you start to struggle. Well, you've learned like how the game works, and maybe where some things were. Maybe you've looked something up or read something somewhere, and start to understand the game a little bit more each time, because there are ways to grind too. There's coliseums in some of the maps where you can go wager gold and like fight one-on-one and win gold back, and that's a good way to get you can park a character there for like most of the battle, and have them grow levels. Like they can still die in there, so you have to be careful, but there's ways around. If you really have played this game a lot, and I think this is meant to be a game that you do spend a significant amount of time with, there's ways to really learn it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like you say, having to blitz it to talk about on a podcast is maybe not doing it the service that it's due. And, back in the day, this would have been, I guess, one of the games that you just had and you just played for months and months and months on end. I mean, the way you describe it, it almost sounds like it has a little bit of the old roguelike to it. I mean, I know it's not, but it's just like,
a little bit, yeah.
You try certain things, you get a little bit further each time, and the game like does have, I think it's the opening 10 chapters, which again do a reasonably good job of easing you into the game mechanics. Like every level is just kind of like, okay, well, these are your enemies, this is how movement works. You can go to certain houses and interact with people in the houses, and maybe they'll give you stuff. This is what not to do, this is what to do. If this enemy is this type, maybe try this. And it throws a lot at you in a relatively short amount of time, but you can't really blame the game for like the struggles that you may have later on. I mean, I'm going to, because I'm just in that kind of mood.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Fucking piss me off.
It's just like I said, I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I'm angry. So I'm gonna take it out on this fucking game. But no, it just my issue with it is that a lot of the mechanics that you learn very, very early on, you don't necessarily need to employ for, I don't know, a good 2/3 of the game. And then by the time you get to an area that absolutely dog walks you, you're just like, well, fuck, what am I supposed to do here? And it's just like, I mean, there was this one map in particular, and I'm going to try and find out exactly what it was. I probably won't be able to find it, but you are trying to storm this keep, and there we are, Hector's Tale. You were trying to storm this keep, and there are these fucking mages that just crop up out of nowhere, and they can literally hit you from the complete opposite side of the screen.
Oh, yeah.
And they were just taking out 2 or 3 of my characters at a time. I'm just like, well, what the fuck do you expect me to do here? And as it turns out, if you hide in the trees outside and go from sort of bush to bush, they have a much harder time of hitting you. And I'm just like, I didn't remember that. Haven't needed to.
Oh, yeah, that's... That, I think that was an advantage of mine from having played a game like this. Because, like, these games do, a lot of these mechanics are staples from, like, the very beginning, and they just carry over game to game. Like,
sure,
hiding in, having your unit on a square that's forested or a mountain or something like that does increase your evasion, like, by a lot. So, using those, or if you're they do the same in Advance Wars too, which is also done by intelligent systems. You advance your units, and you can strategically place your characters in these forested areas, and I actually use, like, I'll look at their you can hover your cursor over an enemy and see their movement squares, like where they can move, and where they can attack. Like usually they can move to a certain point and they can attack like 1 or 2 squares, sometimes 3 or more, beyond where they can move to.
Yeah.
And so I'll move like right to the edge of where they can attack, and I'll put like a strong character there, and that's a way that you can like I'll try to bait, try to get those characters to move, and then I can move more characters and kind of surround them. The AI is really like not that smart. If you really think about it, there are ways that you can exploit it. It will behave in characteristic ways that allow you to, draw out and surround and stuff like that. But still, like, even so, they are given certain, the computer is given certain advantages. Like, it's still not easy because usually they have numbers on you, or you're having to funnel through a small area to get to the next area or something like that. There's a lot of maps that have like waterways and interconnected with bridges and stuff like that. And so then you're bottlenecking and having to, navigate that, or it's, going down a hallway in a, there are some like indoor, you're in a dungeon or something like that. So you have to go down, a hallway or something like that and navigate that and put your strongest units out and follow them up with archers and stuff like that. But sometimes in those maps, they're, especially in the later ones, like they're just like arbitrarily getting reinforcements on certain turns. It's like, I'm doing really well. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's, 3 flyers in the southwest corner, and, like a bunch of knights came up out of the bottom, and I don't know, like all the little fortresses that are around just got another archer. It's like, fuck.
I think it was like the second to last level. Again, I don't know why I can't find these fucking maps, but there was. I just thought, what, I'll clear this area and I'll just slowly make my way across to whatever the temple or whatever, wherever this was all going on. And I must have been on that map for well over an hour because the enemies just kept spawning and spawning and spawning. Yes. And I think it was something stupid like, they'll get like 30 some odd reinforcements or 40 reinforcements. I was just like, is this ever going to end? And, to be fair...
No, I think I know which one you're talking about. And I don't think there was any limit to the number of reinforcements they were going to get.
I mean, they did eventually wear out, but again, I was just fighting and it did wonders for my character's levels, but it's like, Jesus, there is literally no indication about what you're going to get on any of these maps. And the guy who gives you the I can't remember, was it Nils who was giving you
he gives you like a little extra turn?
Oh no, I just mean there was a character when you're in the menu screens that tells you.
Oh yeah.
There might be such and such in this level, so take a couple of guys with axes or stuff like that, and that was rarely helpful.
Sometimes they were. I think in the beginning there's actually like an old fortune teller lady that joins you if you. I don't know if you had to go find her at a certain village in a map. And talk to her, and then she decides to come with you. Mm-hmm. And she's not a playable character, but she's always in your menu before the thing starts. And usually you have to pay her like 50 or 60 gold for her to give her fortune. She was helpful because she would tell you which kinds of characters to take, like what kind of fighters to take, or like the lavender-haired lass will potentially meet someone here, so bring her with. And so she kind of speaks in riddles, but at least it gives you an idea of what you need to do and who you need to bring. Yeah. Then once Nils takes over, once things get really hairy, like towards the end of the game, she's like, peace out. I don't want anything to do with this. This is dangerous. So she leaves, and then Nils takes over, and he's like this little flute boy. And he gives you advice for free, but it's not as good. Mm. And then even after that, there's something occurs where you don't have Nils for a while, and then there's no help.
Yeah.
And in the last map, the very last map or two, you couldn't even look at the map. Sometimes you could select your units, and then you can back out of the menu and see the map and see where everyone is and like what the layout is. And then there were some where you couldn't even do that. So like they do start you off with certain guides or certain assistants, and then like towards the end they like start to slowly pull those things away until by the end like it's like, oh, you should be good
You're
now.
on your own. Yep. And I know you said that the AI isn't all that smart, but I'll tell you what, it's a lot smarter than I am. So by the time I got to those stages, I was just like, fuck's sake, what do I have to do? Like, especially that last level. Are you kidding me? When you're,
The one
I think it's called Light, and you're just in that
Yes.
temple, and these rooms are just every couple of turns opening up and discharging a fucking boss fight from somewhere else in the game. And it's just like, I had a hard enough time with these guys the first time round, and now they can move. It's just like,
right,
fuck's sake.
yeah, what they basically like the room opens and they appear, and then you better figure out what you want to do, because you have one turn to decide, and then they're going to start to move and attack. I liked that one because it was kind of like a pretty clever way to do a boss rush. I kind of thought of like Mega Man games where you're in Wily's castle and you get to that room where you have to, navigate to each room and fight a boss before you can move on. Kind of felt like that, but in a Fire Emblem way.
Yeah, but Mega Man does it one at a time. This game literally just throws everything at you all at once.
Yeah, it's crazy too. This is one where I had to, I used a save state, and then I went back to it because I was like, there's 6 rooms, and none of your characters can span the entire. Plus, the entry to the room that they were in was kind of around a corner. So not only that, but you had to account for the fact that there were 4 or 5 spaces before you're even in the entrance. So not knowing what order these 6 rooms, there's 3 on each side, were going to open, and one could open and you'd be completely out of position, and then if you don't get there by that turn, another room on the opposite end will open, and then you're surrounded by boss level shit, and it's just like, oh my god. That was one where the guide that I was using said like basically you need to be either killing one of these boss characters every turn, or just about every turn, or you're gonna get overwhelmed because they're gonna start coming in. That was a tough one.
I just ended up cowering down at the bottom of the screen, just hoping for the best. Because I got through it.
That's not a bad strategy.
At this point, I was just like, you know what? As long as I get enough people through, because this is clearly the end of the game. As long as I get enough people through, I don't really care who I lose here. And and I was very, very attached to my what was he? The mage. Might have been a monk. Just that little like nerdy looking dude with the monocle.
With the monocle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I can't remember what his name is, but he uses like the dark version of, so there's like light magic and then dark magic and then elemental like fire and thunder or whatever.
He was such a beast on my team, and I lost him in that final fight.
He's really
and I was
good.
just like, for fuck's sake.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I know.
Yeah, there was the guide that I used said that if you have him leveled up enough, he's actually really, really good against the final boss, that dragon.
He took a few people down with him, don't get me wrong. Like he made a good accounting for himself.
Right.
He just didn't live to see another day, and for that I'm sorry. I'm just not very good at Fire Emblem.
Two things that we should mention too, and these are also staples of the Fire Emblem games, like just throughout the whole series, is the like they call it like the weapons triangle.
Yes.
So basically, axes are good against lances, lances are good against swords, swords are good against axes, and that's generally the the most basic. Like if you're using basic weapons, that's kind of the rule to follow. Other than that, there are certain weapons, like there's an axe called like the Lance Reaver. I think there's a axe killer, whatever, lance or something, like whatever. There's specific ones that end up being like kind of bucking the triangle, and then there's other, special weapons that either have like high critical or high, higher attack, or there's some special ones that you can find.
Yeah.
But the problem is that weapons break. So you're mostly using, your iron is your like the base, like what you start with, and then steel becomes the better version. So steel sword, steel axe, steel bow, that kind of thing. And then silver is the next step up. And so by the end of the game, I had a bunch of silver, which was good, and then some of these special weapons. But I would really try very, very hard not to let like Hector had this axe called the Wolf Bale. It was like, I'm not letting that break. And then like the Manicotti, like you could use that and it could break. And there's I think I only found one spot where there was a healing item that was for weapons that one of the healers could carry.
Yeah,
but
that's
other
right.
than that, it's like, oh man, like you use up your weapons, you're kind of fucked.
And I was so many times, like, to go back to I love the weapon triangle. I think that's such a great idea. I love the extra layer of strategy that it sort of gives to every battle. It's just like, well, okay, now I need to send the sword guy off after the axe guy or what have you, and I know I need to do that, so that's nice and clear cut. And the same goes for magic as well, because the different spells, different, like dark mage, light mage.
Light was good against dark was good against I want to say elemental, and then like elemental was good against light. So
yes.
like your fire spells were good against your light spells, were good against your dark spells, which were then good against all that.
But listen, I'm never a fan of weapons breaking in any game.
Yeah,
at least of all here, because there are so few opportunities in this game to, I guess, repair your strongest weapons. And you can find places to buy weapons and replace them, but those truly unique weapons, like you don't really get a chance to get them back. And
you only have so much gold.
The fact that you actually have to physically go to shops in the maps that you are battling in to buy new weapons, really, like, okay, I get that I can buy weapons on the fly, that's great, but it's just like, why the fuck can I not buy weapons between fights? Like, what is my merchant doing? Like, what's he's just
between the fights would be great. Like, you have to seek out a vendor, and then the vendor might not even, there might be one vendor on a map, and it's like, oh, they sell like the vulnerary, which is like the little healing potion, and like a couple other shitty things. It's like a lock or a key or door key or something like that, and a vulnerary. It's like, I don't want items, I need weapons, I need stuff.
The number of times I had just some useless fucking character just wandering around the map, unable to fight anyone, because, like an idiot, I'd forgotten to like grab a weapon from the vendor or the tent or whatever the fuck, and it's just like this guy, this vendor, he's following us the entire way through the gate. He's just like holding weapons for you. It's like, okay, I could have just laid them on the ground and had the same effect. Just like, what is the point of you being here if you're not going to sell me weapons?
So you get this character, his name is Merlinus, Merlinus. There's an extra chapter that's optional that you can do to pick him up, but basically, like, he's stuck on this center island, you have to defend him for a few turns. I actually like that mission. That was a pretty good one. But from that point on, he deploys a tent somewhere on the battlefield, usually where you start. And then, like, he's there, and if you pick any item up that you can't carry, you can send it to him. Whereas if he's not on the map and you go grab like a chest or kill another character that drops something that you're going to pick up, you have to decide something to discard. So like Merlinus becomes like critical, and you have to defend him because he'll level up. If he survives a battle, he'll automatically level up, which is really cool. But if he falls in battle, he doesn't have permadeath, but he has to skip a battle. So that sucks, because then you don't have that ability to like pick shit up and send it to him, or go and exchange stuff. So I always had to, like, Oswin was super high leveled because I would just leave him by Merlinus for most of the battles, and he would just take out anyone who was coming after, my merchant tent or whatever.
I think it's funny because like we had zero communication on that front, and somehow came to the exact same tactic.
Yeah,
it's just like,
that's what this guy is for sure.
I too just left him hanging around the tent because he would just skewer people left and right.
He was great for it.
Ridiculous, and that's I was playing through this game and leveling up characters left and right, and then every once in a while you are gifted these very high level heroic characters. I was just like, well, okay, that's cool. I'm not going to take this too much for granted because there's they're probably only temporary, but a lot of these guys, like, you could just like keep them throughout the entire game, and the other characters that you'd been leveling up just kind of became a bit useless. I mean, for example, you can pick up Jafar later on in the game, and this Karel guy,
Karel is the one that was an awesome swordsman for me. That was the one I couldn't think of before.
And it was just like, I was thinking, well, what's the catch? And it's just like, no catch, just have fun. You're gonna need them. So yeah,
for sure.
I did appreciate that. I don't even know where I was going with this. We were talking about a tent. But yeah.
Well, and the nice thing is, like, eventually, naturally in the game, like, you can't upgrade Merlinus manually, but like eventually in the game they give him a cart for the last few maps, and then he can move around.
Yeah.
He doesn't he can't move very far, but at least you don't have to, on this massive map that's full of reinforcements, leave him down in the corner and just get pummeled. So that was pretty cool. I appreciated that.
Yeah, that did.
But then, within the last couple of maps, like, you couldn't use him at all. So it was like, okay, you need to really make sure you have everything you need to start with. And I would spend probably a good, between maps, I would, and that green screen where you're, picking your units and, checking the map and figuring out all that stuff. I would probably spend a good 15 minutes making sure, like, everyone was equipped and, like, moving weapons around, or, putting things back in the tent or taking things out.
I learned that the hard way, but yeah, sure. Like,
yeah,
after having a few too many characters, just absolute sitting ducks, it's just like, yeah, maybe I should, like, pay attention to actually picking up some weapons and stuff like that. I don't know. I just took it for granted.
Bring a sword this time.
Yeah. Just like, might come in handy. I don't know.
Yeah. What did you? I guess we should probably talk about the story here, because, like, this is a meaty story. There's probably chapters. I would say there's probably like between 30 and 40 chapters if you count, like, the last chapter being 2 chapters really, and then those, I guess they call them like Gaiden chapters, those ones with the little X next to them. So there's like little extra maps that are optional, and I would suggest, like, you play every single fucking map, because those Gaiden chapters are where you get characters like Merlinus, or where you can get an extra character. You can find a spot to grind in, like, a Coliseum or something like that. Like, those are extremely useful. What did you think of the story, though? Like, there's a ton of dialogue and there is a lot going on.
Oh boy. This game does not stop talking. And I like the story fine. It's your standard kind of sword and sorcery, dragons and political intrigue sort of stuff. Done better than most, admittedly.
Yeah, I'd say.
I like the kind of break of the story. For the first, as we said, the first 10 or so chapters, you are, technically you are playing as the tactician, whatever you want to call him. I think his name is Mark, like canonically in the story.
Canonically, yeah. But you enter your name in, and then
Yeah.
you become like they'll address you like, "Hey, Sam," like.
So you are basically traveling with this group of heroes, which is a nice touch. But yeah, so Lindis is, I guess, this nomadic girl who lives off in the plains, and she finds out that she is the daughter of the Marquis of such and such a place, and then begins a sort of quest to go and find her family because her grandfather is being poisoned, I think, to be have the land usurped by his brother and this whole thing. And obviously he's sending bandits out to try and stop your progress and everything like that. And I'm just like, okay, so far so simple, but I can dig it. Good so far. And then you resolve all of that and you start a new quest as Eli Wood or Ellie Wood. You say Ellie Wood.
Yeah, you do. You do. Yeah, you do meet him in the Lindis quest, but he's kind of like a character that you meet in passing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and sort of helps you out. And then his father goes missing, the Marquis of Farai or something like that. Anyway, and this sort of triggers off this whole. Oh God, it's just like, where do you start?
I know. It's like you keep uncovering things as you go along. It's like, well, this guy's the bad guy. It's like, no, he's a puppet. He's being controlled by this dude. And it's like, you kill this dude and then, so that, I mean, that happens in RPGs all the time. It's like the guy you set out to defeat is never the one that, no, we just covered Final Fantasy IV. It's like, well, Golbez is the main bad guy. It's like, well, no, he's not. There's someone pulling his strings.
There's always a bigger fish.
Right.
But I suppose in a nutshell, basically, you've got this big bad who is working through his proxies, as it were, his constructs that is created from nothing, to basically throw the land into war so that there is enough of this, what's it they call it, quintessence? Because I think whenever a hero dies, their spirit or their essence is so powerful that it can be used for nefarious ends, and he's basically trying to summon back the dragons that were banished, I don't know, hundreds of years prior, to use their power, rule the world, yada yada yada. And I really liked the sort of organic reveal of all of these different moving parts. It's just like, I think it was the story more than anything that kept me going in this game. Because I did want to find out what happened next. Like, I really want to find out, who is this fucker? What is the plan? Who are all these characters? How do they fit in? It's a really good story.
Yeah, I tell you what, I don't know if we want to. I mean, we'll throw a quick spoiler, on here. So if you intend to play this game and you're interested in the story, skip ahead probably like a minute or so. But that reveal that the Nils and Ninian, those two like little boy and little girl that were kind of like you needed to protect, I thought that they just needed their quintessence, so there was something about them that the sorcerer wanted. I had no inkling that they were actually dragons.
Right.
It was like they were like dragons that ended up on this side of the portal or whatever and just took human form to just kind of hide.
Yeah.
And so they're these little children, he's got like a little flute.
Yeah. I loved him in his little flute. Like,
I mean, he's useful. He is useful because you can play that flute and he gives you another turn. Or they have these special items that they only have 15, power points or uses or whatever you want to call it, so they can break, but there's ones that like increase your evasion or your defense for a turn or something like that. Like they're pretty useful as support characters.
I loved his little animation and the music that plays when he
it's like he's like skipping around.
I was just like, I like this guy. But so I think out of curiosity they answered this I can't think, was it Nurgle?
Yeah, Nurgle is the main, it ends up being the main bad guy. Yeah.
Right.
And he's like a dark wizard who's a counterpoint to the Like, I think him and this, I can't remember the name of, like, the bearded wizard that eventually joins your party, but, like, him and Nurgle are, like, it's like, on the surface level, it's this political intrigue for all these kingdoms or whatever, like, you know, potentially going to war, but, like, under the surface, like, this has all been set in motion by these two, like, dueling wizards from hundreds of years ago that, like, sealed dragons away. It's like, whoa.
I mean, that's pretty fun. Yeah, because they're basically like Gandalf and Saruman, really, aren't they? Like, they used to
pretty
be
much, yeah.
They used to be very good friends, and now they're at crossed paths. But I think they still have an awful lot of respect for one another. But they just want very different things, because they used to live in a land that, you know, dragons and humans coexisted quite peacefully, and obviously that all went away. And our boy Nurgle there was just like, no, I can do something with this. You know, I can use this power to bring them back and rule the world.
Yeah, he wants to conquer the world. He wants to just basically destroy everything by unleashing these dragons. You know what sucked though? Like, we'll talk about the final battle. Let's get into that and then maybe wrap up, because I mean, we could talk about music, but there's not really a ton of music in this game to you know, talk about. You know, there's a couple of themes, but
I mean, again,
it's mostly pretty repetitive.
Music wise, it's never like, I don't actively remember much of it, and it's your usual RPG fantasy sort of music. It's great, don't get me wrong, but it's nothing necessarily that we haven't heard before, and nothing that necessarily stands out in the genre. It does the job.
Yeah, I think what we'll probably use as like the, you know, like the music for the episode is when you get to the point where you clear the map of enemies and all that's left is like the main boss character, the music changes to like this kind of heroic march, and it's like that's good to hear, because that's when, you know, like, all right, I can relax a little bit, like nothing else is coming, you know, I can get my shit together, I can visit the vendor if I need to, I can heal my guys up, and then I can think about how I want to approach this boss.
Yeah, and then I can stand in front of this. I can stand in front of this boss, do a tiny bit of damage, and then on the next turn just get fucking ruined.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Well, that's where rewind and save states help, because finding the right combination to attack some of these bosses in was just ridiculous. Like, there might be some that would do quite a bit of damage, but not enough, and then get absolutely wiped out. And then there were some that would do like very little damage, but then wouldn't get killed right away. So you'd have to kind of like chip away as much as you can, and then send in your you know, whoever's going to deal the final blow. But it's like, my God.
And make sure
Could you imagine like just going through the whole map and then having to restart it because you like fucked up on the boss?
Oh, I don't have to imagine. I don't have to imagine. Like, it fully fucking happened in my like early playthroughs. Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Just like, just get your tank up there, park a healer behind them, but not so close that, you know, the boss can attack them, and just good luck. But
the nice thing I will say is generally the bosses will not engage until you do something to them first.
Oh yeah.
So you can like, it's like you can just like dance around in front of them, like, you can't touch me, whatever. Like, you could move to the space like directly adjacent to them, be like standing right in front of them, and they won't do anything until you actually attack.
Well, I think some of them, if you were close enough, they would.
Some of them, yeah, that's true. And the last boss rush, they were kind of freely moving around. But in general, if they were like sitting on, especially if the objective was like seize the throne or like seize the gate or something, like there was an actual space you had to park Elliewood, they would not move off of that space, and so you could just like sit outside of their range and do whatever you need to do before moving in.
Yeah,
you could spend several turns positioning everyone around to surround them. You know, that's. And I think that's the give and take. Like, you have your time to do that because they are fucking tough as nails.
Oh god, yeah, they will feed you your ass if you're not well prepared. But yeah, go on. This last boss fight when you're
this last boss, Jesus
you're
Christ,
facing an actual fucking dragon.
Here's the problem I had was like, they set it up kind of like a cinematic scene. I mean, so much as possible in the Game Boy, but like you've got you've got these character, all of your party is there from the previous, like the last two maps go one right into the other. So it's the boss rush. Obviously everyone starts with full health, but you have to take the same group that you picked into the second part of this, battle. After you defeat Nurgle, he's already set in motion that these dragons are going to come out. So there's 3 of them, right? They bust out of this portal.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I think it's Ninian like comes back because she had died or whatever. So she comes back and she does something to seal 2 of the 3 dragons back. And so then you just basically have to take care of the last one.
Yeah. Which thanks,
and
by the way.
Yes, thank you. But the other thing is these little children, and maybe it's like a one-way ticket. Like you become like this little prancy child and that's it. Like you can't go back to being a dragon again. But like no, that's not true though, because didn't Ninian turn into a dragon to like force the other 2 back? Like you've got Nils right there, and all he does in the whole battle is like either get himself fucking killed because he's so weak or play his little flute. Like you're telling me that little kid can't turn back into a dragon and fight the, like, at least give you some sort of, I don't know, whatever. I guess like this is where I found out quick that I probably hadn't leveled up my Hector and my Eliwood and my Lindis enough, because the only option I had to fight this dragon, because like even my strongest characters, like if you're using basic weapons, they're not doing any damage to this dragon.
Nope.
They're just not. They can't.
And you are lucky.
And you do get kind of...
You are lucky if you survive the counterattack.
Yeah, the counterattack is like most of your hit points, no matter what. And sometimes he attacks twice. And if he attacks twice, you're done.
Yeah.
Luckily, when you set up an attack, you position your character and then you select your weapon and then you go into the screen. It does show you a little info card of what's going to happen pops up. Like you're going to do this much damage. You have this much chance at a critical. You're going to attack twice. There's sometimes like a ×2 little thing that pops up. It sometimes pops up on your enemy side. So like when that happens, like I would go back and forth and swap between like what weapon do I want to attack with to get the most out of this encounter. But man, like every single one of my strong characters that I was putting next to this dragon, it was like damage 0, damage 0.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't do anything. It's like you're supposed to use these like legendary weapons, like each one of them. Hector and Eliwood both get a legendary weapon, and then Lindis gets a weapon that the wizard makes sure to say like it's not legendary, it's just really, really good. But she gets a sword, Eliwood gets a sword, and then Hector gets this axe, and then the wizard guy, I wish I could remember his name, but he's only in your party for like a couple of maps, so that's why I couldn't remember his name. But like he has like all of these. I've
got it in front of me here. I think it's Athos.
Athos, that's right. Okay, so you get Athos, and he's a cool character, but like he's got all these fucking wicked magic tomes. Like he's got the frickin'. He's got the most useful one was it looked like it was called areola, which is like the thing around your nipple, which I thought was really funny. It's like show them your nipples.
I mean, listen, nothing else is fucking working.
Yeah, like nothing else is working. Might as well just get your boobs out. But it's a light spell. It's like aureola or something like that. It's like an aurora, but whatever, extra weird things that make it look like it's about areolas. But anyways, that would do 20 damage. But the thing with these mega bosses like these dragons is that there's more hit points than are available on the screen, so it just comes up as question marks, so you don't know how much damage you're doing or how much is left. And that can really make it difficult to get this started. But what I had to end up doing, because even Eliwood and Hector with their legendary weapons didn't do enough damage to this dragon without getting absolutely killed. So I knew like their weapon levels weren't high enough, they weren't strong enough, whatever. But the game gives you an out, because what I was able to do was take Athos and I set him up so that I could use the light spell. The dragon would take almost all of his hit points, And then I would go up with Priscilla, which was the best healer that I had, and I would use the Mend spell, which is the good healing spell. I would get him most of his hit points back, almost all of his hit points back. And then I would take a character, and there's a function where certain characters can rescue other characters, so you can basically like stack the characters on top of each other, but that character that's being held basically doesn't move and loses a turn, like once you spit them back out. Like it's an advantage because you can save your characters that are about to die, but also like if that character holding another character dies, then you lose both, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I would have to cycle moving Athos up, doing the spell, healing him, rescuing the healer, spitting her out, letting the dragon attack, and then you'd get a counter attack. So he was ending up doing 20 damage. So you do like 20 damage per turn. Move him out of range, spit out the healer, move her over on the next turn, heal, move him back into position, do your attack, go heal him, rescue the healer. I had to do this like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, you know what? I definitely like. I couldn't remember exactly how I'd beaten this final boss, but it was something very similar to that. It was literally just like having characters just on the edge of the dragon's area of effect, and somebody just inside, and then sort of just healing them, scooping it. I quite like this rescue mechanic because to me it just sounds like you're just putting another character in your pocket and walking off with them, which is a very funny mental image. But yeah, it's
really useful for Nils because like Nils has like 10 hit points or whatever. He's like a little boy wandering around a battlefield like, honestly, yeah, of course he's gonna get fucking killed.
You get it. Like a stern glance can take Nils out of the fucking game. Like you just look at him the wrong way.
That's ridiculous. Like most of the time, like unless I really needed him to like give someone an extra turn, I would just stick him with like Oswin or something like that. He was like riding piggyback on Oswin.
Love it. But yeah, so there you go. You beat the dragon and you beat the game. You close the gate and all is well. And obviously, like the ending wise, have you played? Because this is a prequel, I think, right? To
I believe so. Because the end game or like the end, just like the kind of cleanup story stuff, you see Eliwood and Hector when they're older talking about stuff. And yeah, I think this is like kind of a prequel to...
And they very, very obviously introduced like the children who are clearly going to be the protagonists of the next game. So I think the Binding Blade is the... I think it was released beforehand, but this is a prequel to it. So... I suppose, that's cool if you know that game. I don't, but, there was enough there that I could say, okay, well, I kind of see where this is going now. They've got my interest as to what might happen next. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Right. Yeah, it's a decent story. Like, what was the... Okay, here's my last question before I think, because we're running pretty long on this one. I'd say, like, let's talk about how you get a ranking at the end, and then we can rate this and go home. Let me find... No, where was it? Battle history. There it is. So if you open your game and you go into battle history, for each tale, so that means like Lindis's 10 missions or Eliwood's missions or Hector's. There's a Hector storyline that you can play. You unlock it once you beat the game. So Hector also has like 30 some odd chapters. And then each one has normal and a hard mode, which is fucking ridiculous that like we just played it on normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard tell that the Hector hard mode is ridiculous. And yeah, I'm going to go on record right now and saying I am never going to fucking play that. Thank you very much.
No. And here's what really kind of burns me here is that just like in an Advance Wars, like you play a mission, they'll give you a rank like right away, so you'll know how you did. Like basically the metric is beating it in as few turns as possible is usually what they or that you've lost the least amount of units or that you've accumulated the most. There's like certain things that's programmed into the game. So like
Right.
if you meet certain conditions, you'll get like S rank, A rank, B rank, whatever. So do you know what your rank was? Because this game doesn't give you it after each mission. It just compiles it. And you can kind of watch the status of it, but it doesn't give it to you until the end.
Yeah, I remember at the end there was, and I did appreciate that, the ending came with like a little bit of a blurb for every character and what they go on to
That
do,
was cool.
assuming they've survived.
Yeah.
I like that. And I'm aware that there was a screen at the end, but by that point I'd checked out.
No, it's back in the menu. They don't just show it to you. But
Oh, no?
I got a... No, you have to go into the menu. I got a C rank.
I mean, that's
just like...
That's
Go
a pass.
fuck yourself. Not even a B? It's a pass. Yeah, I was like, come on, I can't even get a B.
I will have to. I mean, I'm sure I can find it. I mean, it'll be saved on the. All I got to do is go into the Switch.
It's saved in your menu. And once you beat it, then your quote unquote copy in Switch Online, you'll be able to access, not only Hector's story but the hard mode. I'm not even gonna touch the hard mode.
No,
Jesus.
thank you. No, thank you. I've had my fill. Thank you very much.
Right, yeah, for a long time. I was even like in our chat, it's like, guys, I gotta just not play an RPG for like a couple weeks, please.
You were raging at this. Like, I'm surprised you've been as calm and collected. Like, I've been the one who's raging at this, and I wasn't expecting that.
I calmed down a little bit, but I was just like, what the fuck? That ending, I was also a little upset at Final Fantasy IV recently with just like kind of how no matter how much I did any grinding in Final Fantasy IV, like that final boss was still like a complete asshole and took out two of the characters, one of which like I had like kind of a strategy plan for a couple of these characters, but like the way that I had to manage beating it wasn't fun. And that was the same with this. That was the same with this dragon. Like I'm upset with the fact that, I did my best to level up the characters that were weak and give them, they had these magical items at the end, and still they couldn't do enough damage to make a dent in this dragon. Like I had to basically cheese it to beat it. And that was the same thing with Final Fantasy IV. Like all that was left was like my healer and Cecil, and I just like basically had to like do a move with Cecil and then heal, and do a move with Cecil and heal, and just chip away at it. And that was the same thing I did with this, and just wasn't satisfying.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not asking for like a free pass. Like it could still be a challenge, but
no,
I don't know. It just that wasn't fun.
Reward the effort that I've put in, please.
Yeah, reward my C effort, damn it.
That's it. That's it. All right.
Well, what do you think? I'll give you the first pass at rating this game. What do you give this out of 10? Like, what are your final thoughts?
I mean, I am glad that I finally have some Fire Emblem experience. As I said, this is a series that's been on my radar for quite some time. Maybe not the most accessible of tactical RPGs. I would definitely recommend that somebody who's new to the genre perhaps start with something a little bit more forgiving. I don't at all vibe with the permadeath. I mean, I know for some people that's kind of part of the appeal, and I can understand that point of view. It's just not something that I enjoy myself. It is a stunning looking game. I mean, we didn't really touch too much on the visuals, but it is it has all of those things that I love about a Game Boy Advance game. It pops, the colors are fantastic, and I really like, we've mentioned that it's very, very wordy, but these cutscenes, such as they are, the characters the mouths are moving, they're very, very well. It's got
They're blinking.
They're blinking.
They're looking at you.
Absolutely. It's got that really sort of bright and colourful, almost anime style to it, and it's a great looking game. Music's fine. Like I said, it does have its moments. It's suitably epic when it needs to be. The story, I really enjoy the story. Like it has some really organic character growth and some really well-paced reveals. and the characters and some of the more dramatic beats and what have you really do land for me. It's just not. I just think it comes down to the gameplay, and parts of it I enjoyed. There are some ridiculous difficulty spikes that I just really didn't enjoy. Again, it was the story that was getting me through this game towards the end, and maybe that's a me problem. Maybe I just need to get more experience with this genre of game, but I was more frustrated than I would like to admit. I think I'll give this game a C. Hey, I'll take that, you fucker. No, I think, and I hate to do this because I'm usually very generous, but I think I'm going to give it a 6.5. It's above average. It's a good game, and I'm sure I'm going to draw some hate for it. It's just I don't see myself ever playing this one again. I might check out more entries in the series, some of the later entries in the series, and just see if it's a bit more something I get on with a bit more. But good game, not a great game.
Where do you fall now, going back to the beginning when we first started talking about having this on your collection list?
Well, I mean, listen, given everything that I've just said, it is about £50 to buy this game secondhand.
It's a pricey one.
It's a pricey one. I don't think it's one that I'm going to pick up, but never say never. If I start to sort of get a bit more experience with these games, maybe years down the line, I might say, you know what, let's give it another try. I don't know. I probably won't buy it, but I've done stupider things, so.
Yeah.
What about you? Where do you land?
Oh man. Yeah. So two things I'll mention before I get into my final thoughts, real quick. In the more modern games, I think this is a really interesting little blurb that's on one of the Wikipedia pages for Fire Emblem games. Starting with, there's a new Mystery of the Emblem is a game, I guess, that came out in 2010 that they started to incorporate more of a casual mode to make it a little more accessible.
Oh, there it is. So, that's me.
Yes, and so where is that one in the list? So Fire Emblem Awakening would fall in that category. And Fire Emblem Fates is a series of, I believe, 2 or 3 games. There's Birthright and Conquest. And then, obviously, Three Houses and Fire Emblem Engage both came out on the Switch. Those games, starting with those 3DS titles, really started to allow people to, change the settings a little bit to make things more enjoyable for a casual play, including turning off permadeath. In Three Houses, I had permadeath turned off, and I actually, because there was another crazy difficulty spike that, of course, I hadn't prepared for, I turned down the difficulty on the last mission just to kind of finish it and get the story. And I was just like, I fully acknowledge that there's an asterisk on me beating Three Houses. Like, I had to turn the difficulty down to finish it.
Sure.
So, yeah, there are ways to make these games more accessible and just kind of like get the story and get the enjoyment of playing, the strategy game. So, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about these hardcore fucking games. I think it's kind of funny that like Nintendo being known for like kind of the more kid friendly, not whether or not that's deserved reputation or not. They are kind of the character based, IP based, fun loving, family type video games. So to have a game that is at one not overly gory or profane, or this is a very kid friendly type title, sword and sorcery type title, but just to be so brutally difficult is so funny to be like that. That like contradiction is hilarious to me. Like, yes, you could get this for your kid and they would enjoy it, and they might play it for a while, but they're not getting anywhere near the end of this game. I like this game. I played obviously those other two. Didn't finish the Famicom one. That one's insane. But I was kind of expecting this to be easier than it ended up being, and I'm glad I was wrong in a way. I kind of wish I wasn't in another way. I obviously liberal use of the save states and the rewind just to okay, that move resulted in this character dying. There's got to be another way either to accomplish what I'm wanting to do without killing the character, or kind of, hedging my objective a little bit to, spread out what I want to do over a couple of turns so that I can protect my characters a little bit more. Play it with a guide for sure. I think you get the most out of a game like this if you play it with a guide and you understand a little bit more what characters you need to bring into what battles, and where there's spots to kind of grind or buy weapons, or what reinforcements are coming when. That's also when that's not a surprise, it makes things a lot easier for you. Where else was I going? Oh, manuals. I really wish that the Switch Online had scans of the manuals. I think there was a Sega collection where they gave you a little website. It took you to a Sega website, and they just had the really nice PDF scans of everything that was included in the collection. I really wish that was a feature on the Switch Online. But this is a game for sure that would benefit, if you have the ability to look up the manual, definitely read the manual too, because there's probably way more in-depth explanations of how the weapons work and how the combat works, and what the different stat screens mean and all of that kind of stuff. Because as much as this game explains in the first 10 missions, it doesn't explain enough. It doesn't really explain to you about Colosseums and how you can use those. It doesn't explain about weapon levels. Your characters, not only do they level up and gain certain stats, but they also have weapon proficiency levels. And when you get to the end, if you're anything less than S proficiency on any of your weapons, you're going to be hurting, and you're not going to be doing damage, or you're going to be missing a lot. So basically, you have to be 100% of the time, every mission, planning for your next mission. And that's what can be very difficult for this game. Each mission on its own isn't its own isolated, play it and then move on. Everything affects what goes on down the line. So if you miss something 5 missions back, you could be really hurting, without even knowing it until you get there. You need this character, and this character makes this map, way more playable. Well, too bad I didn't talk to him.
Yeah.
Or an axe warrior arbitrarily walked in and destroyed his village, and I was supposed to visit it first within the first 5 turns. How the fuck was I supposed to know that?
Sure.
That's why I think that this game is meant to be played over the long term. And games like this are meant for a lot of trial and error, and you go up against it, you're probably not going to get very far, or you're going to hit a point where you're going to feel like you need to start over and come up with a different strategy. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it. This isn't meant to be played quickly in 2 weeks for a podcast like we did. I kind of burned myself out trying to complete it quickly, and that was probably to my detriment. So I'm going to give it a higher score, because I think that I really could, spend some time with a game like this and enjoy it if I go into it with the mindset that I'm not necessarily in it to beat it quickly and move on. I'm in it to dabble with it here and there, let it breathe, learn more each time I play. I'm going to give it a 9. I think it really is a well put together game. Yeah, I mean, as much as it frustrated me, that's a me problem and not really the game's problem. The game is what it is, and I know that most of these games do what they do. This is a Fire Emblem game through and through. And I think, is it the most accessible? No, and I don't think the series is the most accessible. I think if you want to dip a toe into tactical RPGs, I think you're right. You grab Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions, which is available on most things. Like I have it on my tablet. Grab a Sega collection and play Dragon. What is it? Shining Force. Shining Force is way more accessible because it doesn't have permadeath. That sort of thing. Like, there are ways to get into this genre that don't include driving yourself absolutely insane.
I cannot believe how hard we just flipped on this fucking game. That is ridiculous. Guys,
I talked myself into a higher score.
I was going to say, you talked yourself into something, all right? Because, guys, if you could have heard this guy talking about this game literally for the past week, like, I was expecting you to just kick off. But no, you have just...
Oh, yeah.
Have gobbled this game's balls.
Because in the moment when I'm playing it, this game can go fuck itself. This game can absolutely go fuck itself. When you run up against an enemy and they arbitrarily just like do a critical hit or whatever, like that can seem really like, okay, come on, like the deck is stacked.
I get it.
I
get it.
You reasonably feel like you're gonna hit something and you miss, or like you plan something around being able to clear an enemy and move on, and they hang on and kill you. It's just like, fuck off.
I get it, but like I didn't think I was going to give a score that low, and I managed to talk myself down. You've talked yourself up. That's good radio, mate. That is
Man,
good stuff.
Absolutely insane turn of events.
It is, and now I am dead in the firing line to take a drubbing from the community of Fire Emblem fans.
No. We've got members of the community that hate this game and members of the community that I think like this game. So
the good news is though, I mean, it's very unlikely that they'll be able to do any damage to me whatsoever because they haven't upgraded their weapon proficiencies now.
Yeah, your weapon levels suck.
Yeah.
So fuck you.
All right.
I think, this is definitely like, I think even if you do love these games, I think you can acknowledge that they're not the most accessible. And if someone doesn't like it, like, that's pretty understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good shit.
All right. Yeah, that was a good one.
I feel better now. I feel better now.
Yeah. We're running on time. We got to get you tucked off to Betty Bye, and I got to feed these dogs that have been pacing the room.
Right on.
For pretty much the entire time we've been recording. So, if you're new to the show, if this is your first episode, welcome. I imagine there's some new ears on us after doing The Last of Us a couple weeks back. So if you're new, welcome. Find us at Linktree, linktr.ee/Retrotopia. I won't go into all the goodies there, but the most important is probably the Patreon and the Discord. Those are free to join, and there's links there, but there's also other good stuff too. So, Alan, is there anything you want to give the listeners before we go?
Oh, I just want to say, obviously, thank you for listening. And again, check out some of that merch because Brian's just put up a fantastic new T-shirt design up there. And I really, really fucking want one. But otherwise, we will talk to you, next week, obviously, like we always do. I think it's Professor Layton and the Curious Village next week.
That's right.
Yeah, which is another game that I finished a while ago, and I'm gonna have to remember. Interesting game. See how we feel.
I can't wait to start it. I haven't started it because I've been only playing this for the past 2 weeks.
I think. Saying that, Layton may be less stressful. It might be more. Depends how good you are with puzzles. But no, in the meantime, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. Thanks to Sam, as always. And if you're listening to this, and if Sam tries to tactically show you his RPG-ness, please rank it higher than a C.
Rated a D for Diak.